order them online, right? She doesn't have any available there. So you order them online, and you can order them to size. And then we just got business cards. So those business cards are on the back or front on the counter on your way out. And take some, put them in your pocket, put them in your dashboard, be ready to share. Just remember the things we haven't been over them in a while, but when you invite someone, oh, that got much louder. When you invite someone to Telegram, ask them if they're interested. Ask them if they want to download the app, if they want to be invited, if they'd like to come to a meeting. Vet them first to make sure that they share the same values as you, as us. We don't want infighting or all that by attracting the wrong crowd or drawing attention to ourselves unnecessarily. So before you share the card, make sure they want the card. And on there is all our info with the website. And it doesn't have a Telegram link directly. It says, ask about our Telegram channel. And that's where you personally would invite them. Otherwise, Clay.
This is just, that's a hot mic. This is to let people know, Tom said he would, now these are kind of subversive stickers. You know, one of them has a shopping cart and says, this is used to carry sand, like your mask will stop the virus, that kind of thing. But he said he was willing, boy, it's bright. He said he'd be willing if people wanted to do kind of a campaign to get the word out on some of the topics. You know, if he thought it was a good idea, you know, where it was, we're really trying to, you know, make people aware in maybe a humorous way, that he would sponsor that. He would like free stickers or a banner or something if we had people that wanted to do that kind of getting the word out. So do we know whose these are? Who ordered these? Okay. I don't know whose these belong to, but I'll have some here we can look at, you know, if you wanted to see the kind of stuff that he does. So who's next? Okay. We can always do Noah too.
We're moving around the agenda there. So those of you that have been involved for a while and have been a part of the Telegram subgroups that we have, I think it's 20 different subgroups. And what we would like to see happen, originally we had a lot of people really excited, volunteering to be liaisons. We just need 2 or 3 from each group to put together some action items and just get things done. I know for the emergency preparedness group, it was myself and Hannah. Hannah has moved away, so now it's just me. I would love to have somebody else come on board and help me do that and just kind of get some things rolling, such as maybe an instructional presentation about how to use the ham radios and such. And I know we need them in the other groups also. If you're interested in doing that, you can sign up or just let me know after the meeting. And I think that, and we are going to be meeting all the liaisons before each one of the large group meetings at 6 o'clock here at the church. So at least that will help us be a little more accountable and get some real action items taken care of. Okay, who's next?
All right, I think we're going to play a video for you now. So what we started doing is collecting testimonials from local people, because when it's somebody that you know that may have been, you know, denied treatment at the hospital or injured by a vaccine or lost a loved one, we need to share. And when it's somebody that, you know, maybe lived in your neighborhood, you went to school with, it makes a bigger difference than when it's somebody, you know, in New York City or Australia, right? So we started recording local testimonials. We're going to make those videos available and shareable. They're going to be on our website, so start spreading the word. So today, we're actually going to play a video by a local person who didn't want to be identified, but she will tell her story. I think the video is about 9 minutes. And what we'll do also, we'll make like shorter video compilation of all of them eventually, and then also somebody who's editing them for us is going to put together a larger documentary. Now, I wanted to ask, if you have a story, please reach out to me and I will interview you. And Brian Auer is the one who is doing the editing for us, so we're very grateful for him. So I just want to give him a shout out. Are we ready, Jeff?
Right there.
All right, while we're trying to get the audio up, I'm going to ask Noah Rutherford, who is here, to share what's going on at UCC. He is a really nice young man, so you'll enjoy listening to him.
Hi, everybody. That is a loud mic. Oh, can you guys hear me just fine like this? Oh, got it. Okay. Hi, my name is Noah Rutherford. So I'm a student athlete at UCC. And this past week, we got the great news that we would have to get a booster shot to be considered fully vaccinated. And if we don't, then we have to get tested 3 times a week. And we won't be able to attend some meets, maybe all of them. And that goes for all the athletes. And I took this hard because one of my friends that is on my team, he has some medical issues that he's dealt with in the past, but he's a phenomenal athlete and a phenomenal guy just in general. But the last shot that he had to take, it gave him a heart attack, and he's 20. And it was while he was driving. And so he had to pull over, and then he passed out. Unfortunately, my coach didn't give a care in the world about it and just wants him to get this booster shot. We also found out that we're not sure how much money, but for each athlete that gets the shot, the college gets some amount of money for it. And this is just kind of what's going on at UCC, and I could use all the prayer and any thoughts or anything to help with it. So, did I do all right? Yeah, great. Okay.
So I don't know how many of you know the Bowdens. They used to go to church here. Andrea had a gym over here. They're in Arizona. They left Oregon, but they are still fighting with us in Oregon. And Warren had this document drafted for Noah, and it's a notice to the college. And it goes over state, national laws, actually several state laws. Anyhow, they've asked us to sign these. And so if you guys are willing to sign a document on your way out the door, I have them in the back. And these are going to support Noah. And it's us standing with him since he's been bold enough to stand up. I think we should be bold enough to stand with him. So anyhow, I'll have these in the back.
Let's try it again.
Kind of tired of, the lockdowns and the isolation and things like that, and just thought, okay, well.
So, is that it? Hold on. It just, unfortunately, this video is made for PCs in Microsoft. It's a Windows media player trying to play on a Macintosh, and they're just not liking it.
I live in Douglas County. I'm a dental hygienist, and I have been a dental hygienist for 15 years. Lived in this area since 2012. I am 49 years old. My original decision to get the vaccine was thought that I'm going to be doing my part. Kind of tired of, the lockdowns and the isolation and things like that, and just thought, okay, well, if this is the solution, then I'm going to go with the solution. Let's kind of get this show on the road was my attitude towards it. My first vaccine was done January 29th. It was on a Friday, and I had booked my next appointment for 3 weeks out, which was February 26th. So I did fine with the initial, normal reaction. No, sore arm, that kind of thing. Nothing unusual. So just went about my day, my business. And the week of the second vaccine, when I was supposed to receive the second vaccine, it was February 23rd. I went in on a normal day of work. It was actually my Monday, and worked on my 8 o'clock patient, no issues. Everything was fine. I worked on my 9 o'clock patient and noticed that my wrist, left wrist, which is where the first vaccine was received, was the left arm. I became stiffened in the wrist. It started to get a little uncomfortable. Nothing major. I just thought, okay, well, maybe I'm just having a bad day. Dismissed that patient, came back to my room to clean up, and shook my hand on the harder side, just trying to stretch things out. Maybe I aggravated something, I'm not sure, but during that 10 o'clock patient, I got about halfway through, and the range of motion in my wrist had become much more worse. It was becoming painful, and I could no longer hold the section. Luckily, this was my non-working hand, so I could continue to clean teeth. I dismissed that patient, brought back my 11 o'clock patient, and I could no longer hold the mirror. So now the wrist was swollen quite significantly, no range of motion at all, extremely painful at this point. I had alerted my manager after my 10 o'clock patient that something was wrong, and got through my lunch hour and still had 3 more patients for the day. They had to bring in an assistant for me to finish out the day. Went to urgent care the next day, and they diagnosed me with what they call pseudo-gout or chondrocalcinosis. Calcium crystals building up in the wrist. Not much they can do, anti-inflammatories, and that's it. So I didn't put the 2 pieces together at the time. I did, however, cancel my second dose of the vaccine that same week, just because I thought, I don't need 2 things going on at once. As time has gone on and talking with other patients with reactions, I kind of started to piece together, like maybe this caused some sort of an inflammatory response in my body. My wrists still, to this day, they are weak. I have to wear braces now on both of them to lift a 5-pound dumbbell if I want to exercise. I have horses, so if I'm going to go do strenuous things with the horses, I put braces on my wrists to protect them. I have not had an episode of swelling and major pain, but I am weak. If I try to pick something up, it's a little achy, but it's not in the same spot. And the fact that it's now on both, it's a little concerning to me. So I think maybe there was some sort of reaction there that hasn't been addressed. I did see a rheumatologist. I never did bring that up to them, unfortunately. I do plan on doing a follow-up appointment, and we'll probably address that question with them. Is there a possibility that something could have been stirred up after that first initial dose of the vaccine? As far as doing research on the vaccine, I did not do a lot of research. I'm not exactly sure why. I of course, did research later, after I had the problem. I have had several patients that have had some issues with adverse reactions from the vaccine. One particular man in the medical field also resides in this area. He had Stevens-Johnson syndrome. He was hospitalized for 3 or 4 days. I had another woman over the summer that had a vaccine. She was diagnosed 3 days later with pericarditis, fluid around the heart. I just learned yesterday that my fellow colleague, another hygienist, her patient, her stepdad passed away after 1 week within 1 week of having a dose of the vaccine. And we have a very close friend, nurse practitioner. She resides in California. She's not in this area. She had 1 dose of the vaccine and had an initial reaction right away, like an anaphylactic type of reaction. She was treated at the emergency department Within 3 weeks, recovered within 3 weeks, she started having the same issues. Tightness of the chest, hard to breathe. It was just a continued, almost like an autoimmune response. She had tingling in the hands and feet and legs. She had headaches, she had nausea, extreme fatigue. I can't even think of all the things that she's had, but she actually is now on disability and has been out of work for 9 months. A nurse practitioner. And she's getting better, but it has been a very long, slow, hard road for her. And it's alarming. And she has not been able to get help that she needs. She's been to many, many doctors and still kind of going through doctor's appointments. So, long road for her. As far as people being recognized as vaccine injuries, I only know of one, and that was the woman that had the pericarditis, the fluid around the heart. She did admit to me that 4 doctors actually said, yes, the vaccine caused the problem. I can't recall the exact month of when I saw her, but I'm thinking it was around July. She's the only one. I had the Moderna vaccine. So my friend, who is the nurse practitioner, had the Pfizer. The other man that suffered from Stephen Johnson's, he had Pfizer. The gal that had pericarditis, she had Johnson & Johnson. And my neighbor had Moderna. My neighbor, he passed away 2 weeks after his vaccination, and that was over the summer. They were on vacation in Idaho, and he passed away. He did have some underlying health conditions, heart-related. So, but there was no autopsy done when he passed away. So no research being done if the vaccine had anything to do with his death. My neighbor was 66 or 67. My colleague's dad that passed away was 65. No health conditions, he'd never been hospitalized, he had never had a surgery, took, I think, bare minimum medications as far as I know. He was fit, exercised, thin guy, and they believe he died of a blood clot. He just passed away yesterday. I do not know if there will be an autopsy. It was so upsetting for my colleague's patient, who was good friends with this gal, that she couldn't answer any of those questions, and she couldn't answer which vaccine her stepdad had either. I have never had COVID that I'm aware of. I have not had an antibody test done either. To my knowledge, I don't think any of the people that I have spoken to or have had reactions had COVID prior. Oh, I do want to share one thing. My sister is a nurse in California. I went to go visit. It was my mom's 70th birthday this weekend. I flew down there and was able to have conversations with my sister. She said that they are starting to see in the hospital young boys, young men, so anywhere from that range of 17 to 21, 22, they are starting to have myocarditis, inflammation of the heart. So they're starting to see some of those things in the hospital. So that was something that she just shared with me this weekend. So new fact, new news. Maybe it's been out there, I don't know, but she's actually seen it. After, of course, they've been vaccinated. Not girls, it was more prevalent in young men. Mm-hmm.
All right, so as you can see, nothing good. And as you can see, we still need a little bit of editing to do, but we're looking for stories like this because it's, you can talk until you're blue in the face, but when you actually share facts with people and facts of local people, maybe we'll be able to open some eyes. I run a martial arts school, and some parents have already vaccinated their children, and so and I know they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart, and because they want the best for their kids. But if they saw something like this, they would think twice. So we need to open people's eyes and save some lives. Okay, so come talk to me or post on Telegram if you want to be interviewed, if you know somebody who has a good story that we can share. And if they don't want to be identified, we don't have to say their name. We can blur them out like we did with this person. We can even change their voice if needed. Okay, thank you. And Heather Simpson. All right. Thank you. Hello.
Hi, thank you. I'm sharing about the, there's something that was posted in the group yesterday, I believe, and Sheila asked me to share about it. It would be really helpful if you guys take a look, because there's a link posted as well. It's about the bonds, and not a bond measure, but it's like the bonds that any person who's in public office, and very similar to contractors, a lot of people use these. So in public office, we've got a lot of people that are legally required to carry a bond for their position. There's a video explaining it. I think we can play it here in a second. But I also posted a link that I found just kind of explaining more about what bonds mean. And of course, anyone in here who's familiar with those would be very welcome, or anyone who's interested in helping, very welcome to help start pursuing this, because it's something that we could actually do to hold people accountable for doing their jobs. If you wouldn't mind playing the video, I think that'd be great.
So I'm going to take a minute to explain to people in simple terms what a bond is. Is that okay for our audience?
Yes.
Okay, so I think the best way to explain what a bond is if you look at bail bonds. So if your friend gets thrown in jail and there's $1 million bail, you don't have $1 million. So you go and you take out a bond for, let's say, $5,000. And that bond states, I am personally willing to take the liability that my friend will show up during their court hearing. And I will put my house, my car, my boat, whatever it may be, as collateral for that $1 million. In other words, I am claiming liability for my friend. And so if my friend does not show up at that court hearing, I am now the liable party, and the bond company will come after me as sort of a collection agency to resolve the situation, right? So the thing that most people don't realize is that every public, elected and appointed official is bonded, and they're required to by the federal government. So some states have skirted some of these laws, and each state is sort of uniquely different. But in this case, Illinois, which is the state that Violet is in, and she's representing the Bethalto district, school district. So she knew that if she could acquire this bond, right, that she could take action against this board. So keep going. Sorry, just want to make sure everybody understood that the individuals on these boards are personally liable, which means that the superintendent that she just acquired this bond for is personally liable for $4 million per claim. Per claim. And there are many more people in the same district that are in the same seat as Violet whose children were physically or mentally injured by this mask mandate. So go ahead, keep going.
That's okay. No, that's good. People do need to understand what the bonds are for, absolutely. So once I obtain the copy.
We're not going to play the whole thing because it's 20 or 30 minutes long, but you get the idea. There's something here that's worth exploring and doing some more research. So if anybody's interested, Sheila or me, anyone who's got experience with having a bond or filing a claim against one would be really awesome. Supposedly nobody files claims very often because they just don't realize they can, but I know it does happen with contractors a little bit more often. Anyway, I don't know who's next. Mike? Yeah, Mike?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Mike Emanuel, and I own Alexander's Greek Cuisine here in town. and I was told that everybody here loves socialism. That's why I'm here. Although I don't know if I can fill Olga's shoes after she's here now, because she's got a lot more experience than I do for that subject matter. I was born in Germany, actually, to Greek parents, and my parents moved back to Greece when I was 15. And I went to school there, even though I didn't speak any Greek at the time. So I had to learn the language to get around, to go to technical school, to basically function in society. The thing that I learned, and I was blessed by God to give me a brain so I can think for myself logically, when I was looking around at everybody there, nobody was fending for themselves. Everybody was waiting for somebody to give them a handout. And most likely it was the government, because that's what the government does. I know democracy came out of Greece and everybody thinks it's a wonderful concept and it's a wonderful idea and everybody's happy. Yeah, they're all happy because 65% of the population works for the government. They get a very hefty paycheck. They get a very hefty pension at the end of their service, but that leaves a very minimal amount of people to produce for the country. That's why Greece went bankrupt back in 2008. I don't know if any of you remember the stories on TV with the riots and all that kind of stuff. It's because they don't have anything to produce. They don't produce anything if, 3/4 of your workforce works for the government. Who's going to produce? And everybody wants the government job. Now, how do you get a government job? Well, some places you have to have a degree. Some places you go to school to acquire knowledge to get a job for, I don't know, the IRS, DHS. You pick, the department. Over there, it's who do you know, who you're affiliated with, how much time did you spend promoting this person that wanted to be elected in office to become a senator or a congressman over there, and in return, for them to return the favor, they get you a job somewhere, hopefully, where you can fit in or hide out for the next 20, 30 years until you get your pension. They have caught people that had jobs like that, because I follow the news there. All my family still lives there. I'm the only one who left. And I'll explain in a little bit why. But they have caught people there that were supposed to be on a job pretty much every single day of the week. And they worked for, I believe, the Greek National Bank, which is a government job again. Somehow they discovered that this person was collecting a paycheck for the last 20 years and never showed up to work. Never. So when you have, and I'm guarantee you he wasn't the only one. That's just the one that they found. But that's how you get jobs there. You go and, when we have elections here and you see all the posters of everybody who wants to be elected, whether it's a commissioner's office or a mayor's office, you have your volunteers that go out and do that for you or with you. They don't get paid. It's the same thing over there. The more you're out promoting the person but the understanding is you get something back in return. There's not such a thing as I'm doing it out of the goodness of my heart because I like you. What can you do for me? Long story short, I went to technical school. I came out as an electrician. Military service there is mandatory. It's not voluntarily like it is here. It's a little different now. They changed things up, but it's still for the majority of the people there, men, and I believe they have women now too. It's a mandatory thing. It's a mandatory service, which is not a bad thing. Before I went into the service as an apprentice, as an electrical apprentice, I worked for the power company. Somehow I got this job with the power company, which is a public entity in Greece. It's not like Pacific Power here, where it's a private enterprise working with the government. So I was an apprentice for a year and a half, almost 2 years. Finished my schooling, got my degrees, my licensing, but I was only like 17 and a half at the time. I started school really early. So I decided to go into the military and get the service out of the way. So I went voluntarily in like 6 months to a year early, just to get out of the way. Because at that point, I already knew, just from watching people within the power company, in the offices and out on the field, how they worked and what they did. And I knew that that wasn't right. Minimal amount of work for maximum benefit. I worked out on the field with crews doing electrical work. Some of the nicest guys I've ever met. I can't say they were not nice. But then I had to work within the office setting for a few months. And I know it's something that people don't realize that it happens, but there's a lot of bribing going on in socialist environments. If you want to get ahead with anything, you have to bribe the right person. You want to go into a hospital that's a private hospital that has a better doctor, you better bribe the doctor to get there. Your loved one is in the hospital and they have public health system. You can go to a public health system, but that doesn't mean you're going to have a bed in a room. You could have a bed in the hallway with everybody passing by. If you wanted a room, you would have to bribe the nurse, the head nurse, and the doctor. So you can get another private room. We're not talking private rooms. We're talking a room with 2 or 3 other people. At least you were in a room. And if you wanted to have the better doctor to do any kind of medical treatment, surgery, guess what? You hand out more bribe money. We call them envelopes there because you're giving the doctor an envelope. So nobody sees the money, so you're just giving an envelope. Well, it was the same thing with the power company. When I was 17, 18 years old, in order to get a phone line in your house, it would take up to 7 years once you applied to get a phone line. And I'm sorry, I'm not making it up. This is real life, how it was. If you build a house, you were fortunate enough to be able to build a house somewhere, and you had to bring power to that house, it would take years. Now, there is a way to get past that if you know the ins and outs. So I was working in the office where they did the initial paperwork, when they were going to send out the crews to connect power, when they were going to send out the engineers to figure out the angles they had to set the power poles. There was 2 guys in that office, and they were separated from everybody else. Their stack of files was this tall on their desk. And every so often you would see like the big shot architects or the big shot electrical engineers come in to drop off an application. Well, within that application and the folder, there was envelopes. What that meant was, if I had applied for a permit to get power to my house, I was on the bottom of the pile. The person who brought in the envelope immediately went to the top. Everybody knew that. Everybody understood that. No big deal. Nobody said anything. So if you didn't have money, you were out of luck. You were waiting until we had people come in there crying because they were waiting for years to get power, and nobody had ever contacted them. Nobody ever had come to say, hey, you know, we still need this paper or that paper. It had nothing to do with the paperwork. It had to do with, you're not greasing the wheel here. You're not getting ahead. So when I saw stuff like that, it really made a big impression on me. I didn't want to be part of that. I didn't want to live like that. Went into the military, came out, and I was looking for a job. I was unemployed. My apprenticeship was over. They didn't renew my contract. But they had posted in the newspaper, in the local newspaper, that they had job openings. And I thought, well, I know everybody there. Maybe I get lucky and get a job. So I went into the personnel office, filled out the application. They saw me come in. They're like, hey, how you doing? Welcome back. I'm like, hey, I'm here to apply for some of the positions you have because I have the qualifications. I worked with you before. You know my work ethic and all that fun stuff that I thought would matter. And the guy literally looked at me and said, so have you signed up with the party yet? At the time when I was trying to get that job, the Socialist Party was in power. Now, don't get me wrong, not the Communist Party. That's Olga's department. This is the Socialist Department, where they say that they're more democratic and they're for all the people and everything else. And he was one of the leaders of the local chapter that was in the personnel office. And he literally looked at me and asked me if I had joined the party. I'm like, no. Well, have you joined the other party? I'm like, no, I'm not joining anybody. I'm here on my own free will looking for a job. It's like, well, if you're not going to join the party, then might as well not even turn in your application. And I just looked at him. I'm 18. I don't know much, but I know what's right and what's wrong. I just looked at him and I told him, you know what, I'm going to give you my application, and once I shut the door behind me, you can turn around and wipe your blah, blah, blah. So that was that. And that was pretty much the cherry on top that made me decide that I didn't want to live there under those conditions. I didn't want to live there always only owing somebody something while you're just trying to work and make a career with anything. So for me, the solution was to leave. And the only job I could find that didn't require me to belong to any, political party at the time was as a merchant marine. And the only positions they had for the ship was a cook. I didn't know how to cook. And when I told the owner I didn't know how to cook, he just looked at me, he's like, oh, that's fine. Can you boil pasta? I'm like, I can try. Oh, the guys on the boat will help you. So that's how I got introduced into cooking and learning how to cook, basically. And I made it a career. Circumstances allowed me to keep using that profession to further get ahead in life. The only place that I found through my travels that would allow me to live a free life without being attached to a stigma of something or another was here. And it saddens me to see that the people now are trying to promote socialism in this country, which they don't even know what socialism is. They have never lived a single day in a country where they promote dependence on the system. And it's not just Greece, it's not just Russia, it's not just Venezuela, it's everywhere. My wife always asks me, like, where can we move just to be us? I'm like, this is it. This is the only country that will allow you to live a free life, and we need to be able to preserve that. If we let them continue on this path, it will affect all of us. It will affect our daily lives, it will affect our work, it will affect our children. I'm trying to teach my children to think for themselves. I don't need somebody else to think for them and tell them what to think or how to think. I want them to be able to do it on their own. And I'm hoping I'll do a good enough job before the Lord takes me so they can function as good adults when they grow up. because otherwise I failed them. It doesn't matter for me anymore. I'm getting old. So, but I just wanted to share that with you guys because I know a lot of people have never been, you might have traveled around the world, you might have been to countries. When you're vacationing somewhere, when you go on vacation, if you went to Greece, it's beautiful. And I'm not saying the country is not beautiful or the people are not nice. It's the system that they choose to live under. And it's been going on for so many generations now, they don't know any different. They're used to that. Now they're just picking who's going to give them more money at the end of the day when they get elected. Who's going to give them more benefits, more unemployment, more pension, more. And the people who suffer are the elderly that live on a minimum amount of pension right now because of all the austerity measures they had once they got bailed out because they wanted to be in the euro. It's insane because they're expecting retirees, grandmas and grandpas, to live on like less than $500 a month. And if you have to pay rent somewhere, it doesn't leave you any money for food. And that's the struggle. But that's what they choose too. Thank you for letting me talk to you tonight. If you have questions, please. Go ahead.
When you went from electrical work to the military, were there also envelopes?
No, I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't mention that, but
restate my question.
Yes, she asked me if when I went from, when I graduated electrical school and I went into the military, was there an envelope system in the military? Yes and no. Because it is the military, the colonel, which is a funny story, I forgot about that altogether until you brought that up now. I literally, I had an electrical degree, and when I joined the military, they're supposed to give you your specialty according to what your profession is when you go in. Well, they weren't looking for electricians, they were looking for truck drivers, so I became a truck driver. So by the time I went to the unit I was supposed to go in, they needed electricians. So the colonel that was in charge of the camp made me an electrician there, on top of being a truck driver. But they were supposed to change out power poles in one of the outlining camps, and he was trying to convince me to do that ourselves, and whatever money we could save, I would get a percentage out of it. Now that's the colonel of the camp. We're not talking like general or somebody high up in the Pentagon or anything like that. That's just the guy running the camp. And I told him I wasn't going to do that. But interesting story, in boot camp, there goes where who do you know and how far up the food chain they are. I didn't know anybody that was a military person or, higher up in the military or a career or anything like that. Unbeknownst to me, my uncle, who was married to my godmother, my aunt, he was a businessman in Athens. And he's done very well for himself, but he knew somebody. And I didn't know that he knew somebody. But in boot camp, they decide where they're going to send you. If you have no connection to anybody whatsoever, you end up on the border with Turkey or something, or on a deserted island in the middle of the Aegean. If you had good connections, you could be in a, posh camp in Athens or Thessaloniki or somewhere. I ended up kind of in the middle because I didn't know this person. So I was called, while I was in boot camp, I was called into the office over the PA system, and I thought, okay, what did I do and why are they calling my name to go in there? Well, the captain on duty, because it was a Sunday, calls me in. Never had talked to the man before. There's 1,000 guys in the camp. You don't talk to everybody. He's like, have a seat. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, okay. You want some coffee? You want a lemonade? I just looked at him like, okay, what's going on? So then he tells me, well, do you know Captain such and such? I don't even remember the guy's name anymore. I'm like, no, I've never heard of them. Are you sure you don't know this guy? I'm like, I'm positive. Does your mom know him? I'm like, my mom doesn't know anybody. Well, somebody knows him in your family because I just got a phone call from him, and apparently he worked for the Greek CIA at the time as a military attaché. So this guy in the camp I was in basically was saluting him over the phone when he called because he had such high pull, and he thought I knew him. So then I got a favorable placement. I was on the Bulgarian border. I wasn't by the Turkish border, but it was better. So that was my placement. So it wasn't necessarily an envelope involved. It was who do you know and how far up they are in the chain of command. So you remind me of something I had forgotten. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How did you get to the United States?
I have some distant family on the East Coast. They live in Massachusetts. I had never met them before. So I came here through them. Didn't like the East Coast, so I moved to Alaska. So instead of living in a city with millions of people, I moved to a village with 300 people for a few years and worked there. And came to Oregon, moved to Idaho, moved back to Oregon. I like the Pacific Northwest, and I like smaller towns. I don't like the big cities. That's not me.
Are you aware of divine providence?
I am. I feel very blessed to where I am today and what I've been able to accomplish in this country that gave me the opportunity. Because I would never have the opportunities I had here, there, just because I didn't have the connections and I didn't have the money to promote myself in the right places. And I worked with people there. Well, I had a job as a car salesman, which I will never do again. That kind of ruined me. But the guy who was the dealer for that particular maker had gone to Thailand on vacation with his wife. And when they came back, he would send me on errands to go to different places. Well, same envelope system. Gift from Thailand in a brown manila envelope, and who knows what else was in there. I would have to go deliver it to the bank commissioner so they can do business. So it goes on in every aspect of life. It doesn't matter if you're a public employee or if you're private sector. If you want to get ahead, is who are you going to grease to make it to the next step? So that's the reality of socialism. So it's really not a democracy anymore. Yes? I have never met this person. My uncle told me about him. They were really good friends, I guess. And I didn't know that. And I have never met him. And I don't believe, if he's alive still, I'd be surprised because it's been so long. But I've never met him, never talked to him, never heard from him again. That was the one phone call he made for my uncle, basically, because they were friends. But it's somebody knew somebody that was in a position to do something. So my uncle was looking out for me. He's still alive, so he's still looking out for me. Anybody else? I believe.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike. Do we have Dr. Allen's video? Is that different? Yeah, it's different. We'll play it next time. Okay, and There was a video from Abby. Are we playing that without her? No? Okay. I think that's it, unless there's anything else. Yes, business cards and stickers are on the front counter on your way out. Remember from Heather Simpson, if you know anything about surety bonds, about insurance, if you know someone who does, and everyone at home, please reach out and we can connect you. As well, we want liaisons for all the subgroups. That would be really helpful. Anything you're interested in. If you aren't tuned in to all the subgroups on Telegram, ask for help. Reach out to somebody, either here at the meeting or on Telegram, and we'll help link you up with what pertains to you, your interests in life, where you could be of benefit, the things you want to learn about that you don't know about yet. We can get you involved. Meeting in 2 weeks. What's the date? Do we know? 7th? Yeah, February 7th. See you then. Yes. Oh, yes. On your way out the door, we have the signatures to help with Noah and the athletes at UCC. And can you print them at home and send some in? Mm-hmm.
If anyone watching on the YouTube channel right now would like to sign a form, I can either meet up with you tomorrow morning. I'd like to mail them out in the afternoon, or I can get you a form to print, and you can, that's really bright, you can sign it yourself and fill it out and mail it to the addresses on the form. That's it.
Have a good night, everybody.